Hello. Hello, this is the My Artifact episode number 4051. Today's date is May 12, 2026. It's been almost like a night at 10:41 p.m. Boy oh boy, right now it's very hot. Like literally I am sweating from like literally, yeah. Okay, it's been almost like a 10:42 p.m. Okay, night at 10:42 p.m. Okay, yeah. What should you how much temperature should you supposed to be expect during the night? Okay, yeah. Probably you might gonna expect maybe kind of like a something that key like a 15 or 20 degrees Celsius probably. Yeah, let me tell you the kind of like a right now temperature. Okay, yeah, is 39 degrees Celsius in night at 10:42 p.m. At night at 10:42, I'm actually seeing the weather is 39 degrees Celsius. Literally, just like it feels like that na afternoon, but just kind of like there is no sun at all. Yeah, and it's 10:13. I'm kind of like sweating from everywhere. It is so hot, and everything what you touch, like literally, if I'm touch the AC outdoor unit, it feels hot. Even if I touch the wall, it is hot. Even if I touch any kind of like a simply metal, oh my god, it's burning hot. Okay, water, oh, these are also hot too. Everything is hot. Like like everything is kind of like a burning. Okay, during the day, like I cannot tell you how much hot was that. Okay, it is so much, yeah. Like during the day it went to almost like a 44 degrees Celsius. Dude, I was kind of like burning. Okay, we have a cooler, by the way. We have a AC, but AC, air conditioner, we have that too. Okay, the problem is that na ki like basically middle class mentality. Yeah, like when you turn on the AC, then probably it might cost a lot because AC takes a lot of like electricity and things and that, which is by the way true. Okay, because in in one AC you can afford two cooler. Okay, so we have a cooler. Okay, and cooler is actually working really fine. So AC is like we don't really turn on that much, like literally nothing, once in a year maybe, yeah. But we have a cooler, and that cooler is actually available in living room. Okay, very hot. Summer in India, it's like very hot. By the way, is this thing na like it is way much hotter than Africa, by the way. Like literally just like that na ki like in Africa it is kind of like a very hot. This India is a kind of like a burning hotter than Africa. Okay, let me kind of like tell you why the India is kind of like a so much hot than Africa. Okay, uh basically is this thing that ki India is a developing country, and everything over here right now is construction actually happening. Like everywhere you go, okay, the roads are building, the cars are building, the buildings are building. Okay, yeah, everywhere there is a kind of like a some sort of thing is kind of like a construction actually happening. Okay, and because of this thing there is a lot of like basically is this, it's a natural form. Like basically when the country is actually developing, then there is a lot of kind of like a something like that key, like a impure particle came, and then the CO2, and CO2 actually trap the kind of like a something oxygen, sorry, trap the trap the heat. So that's why, yeah. And also is this thing na okay, I live in tier 3 city, by the way. I'm living in kind of like a Wardha, Maharashtra. It's a tier 3 city. Okay, it's not really that much hot. Okay, yeah, by the way, it's like a okay, let me tell you one thing. Okay, yeah, the temperature that you see on your mobile phone in your weather app, okay, yeah, that is the average temperature. Okay, average temperature means like that na ki in some part of the kind of like a simplicity, it's way much hotter than the average temperature. How and why? Okay, so have you ever kind of like experienced that during the highway in the afternoon, it's kind of like a way much hotter? Yeah, literally hotter. Okay, Why is that? Because of that ki most of the highway is actually made of the asphalt. Okay, asphalt or tarmac. Okay, and these are kind of like a simply black in color, which are kind of like a trap heat. Okay, as also highways are kind of like a lot of friction actually happen, tires and kind of like a things. Okay, as also is this thing that na ki there is a lot of kind of like a highway, a lot of pollution also actually happening too. Okay, and very kind of like in the highway there is a kind of like a very less soil. Okay, probably I'm talking about the highway in urban area. Okay, so in that situation, that particular hotspot became so much hotter in India. It's too much. Okay, so that's why is this kind of like a became very much hotter. Okay, um, another thing is that na ki because in the urban area there is a kind of like a very less trees are actually available. Okay, like basically we are cut down the tree to kind of like build the infrastructure and things and that, which is like is it wrong? Well, yeah, in some words some certain thing is wrong, but like industrial develop like industrialization and kind of like a development and building infrastructure is also really essential too. Okay, we can build the trees after we kind of like develop the buildings and infrastructure and things and that. Okay, so yes, like some people might gonna offend that ki, why are you say this thing? Okay, dude, like basically trees are very essential. Yeah, but kind of like infrastructure is kind of like far more essential than trees. Trees can grow. Okay, like basically this thing after we build our infrastructure, we could build the trees all around and things and that to make kind of like a simply dissipate the heat and things and that. Okay, whatever. Okay, so basically it's kind of like a way much hotter and things and that. So it's, yeah. Okay, by the way, I was kind of like a living like when I was kind of like doing a job in Nagpur city. Okay, at that time it was like a way much hotter. Okay, Nagpur city, like that is like another level. Okay, like urbanization is kind of like another kind of like a trap zone to kind of like a trap lot of heat in that particular area. So yeah, I'm gonna talk about this thing. Okay, there's a lot of YouTube video regarding about that. Okay, yeah, but the main reason is that India is a kind of like a way much hotter than Africa. Is same is that it's a developing country. Okay, yeah, everywhere is a kind of like a somewhat something developing. So very obvious reason that key, yeah, we have pollution, we have dust particle, we have the CO2 which trap the heat. So that's why entire countries became hotter. All right, yeah, so this is all the kind of like a things. Okay, yeah, should we jump into the question? Yeah, like basically I don't want to talk about this like I kind of like a weather, but still. Okay, yeah. Okay, so question is, will you invest in advance uh, anonymization? That's a really good question. Okay, yeah. First of all, what is at least this question and why am I asking this question to myself? I wanted to build an app called Artifact. What is at least this application? Well, when you write the diary every single time, you cannot able to be write the diary the way that you wanted to. Why? Because of that key, your writing speed is always slower than your thought process. Why does writing speed is kind of like a slower is because of that it has a lot of constraint. Okay, you need a pen, paper, convenience to kind of like write down your thoughts and things and that process is kind of like a very much kind of like a add a lot of constraint. Okay, so that's why very less people are kind of like a writing the diary. Okay, so basically is this thing that key instead of writing a diary, what if we could record a diary, like audio record a diary? I call that Artifact. The stuff that you are kind of like listening right now, this is my Artifact episode number 4051. I am doing this thing for past 11 years. I am doing this thing every single day, and because of this technicality, this process, it adds so much amount of value inside of me. The person that I am became today and the person that I will become tomorrow It is all because of artifact. And yes, it definitely add value. So I realized that because of this process, because of this technicality, it adds so much amount of value inside of me. What if I could share this technicality to the people so that people should supposed to be get the value? How do I supposed to do that? By building an application. So my application, my artifact is a kind of like a somewhat something like a YouTube. In the YouTube platform, you kind of like upload your video, other people sees your video. Artifact is a kind of like a same. You record your artifact, upload your artifact, other people listen your artifact. The only one key difference is that I'm kind of like a giving the privacy that no one will gonna know who is that particular person that they are listening their artifact and things and that. Complete privacy. Like basically my name is a Saurabh Avthare, but a user will kind of like a see a different name. They will not gonna see as a name as Saurabh Avthare, they see as a name as a Prozac 1943 or something else, so that I would kind of like maintain the privacy layer. So this is my kind of like application. Now before I wanted to build this application, I wanted to aware of all the possible consequences. What will wrong thing will gonna happen and how do I supposed to be kind of like a figure it out. Okay, yeah. So I went to ChatGPT, I tell my idea regarding about my app building and things and that. So and I suggest that he suggests me at least like hundreds of hundreds of all the possible worst consequences, so that I would be aware of that every possible consequences. ChatGPT suggests me all those questions. Okay, yeah, this is one of those questions. Now regarding about the question says that how will I invest on advanced anonymization? Anonymization means like that how do I supposed to be build such a system that makes sure that privacy should supposed to be kind of like a maintain. Okay, yeah, or increase or things and that. Okay, yeah. Well, basically I will gonna increase, okay, yeah, the lot of privacy. Okay, but basically this thing now, like there are a couple of things I already mentioned regarding about so many steps of privacy. How do I supposed to kind of like make sure that privacy should not supposed to be compromised. Okay, yeah, I already mentioned, but still again I mentioned. Okay, yeah, first thing is that usually is this thing, the first privacy layer, all the username are kind of like a kept it hidden, means their username is a kind of like a very different than their real name. As I mentioned, my real name is Saurabh Avthare, but my artifact handle name would be Prozac 1943. Privacy layer number 1. Privacy layer number 2 is that you cannot able to be upload your profile photo. No, you can select the avatar. Okay, yeah. Like in my application, there is a kind of like an avatar you can create. Okay, yeah, and that is your profile photo. Okay, you cannot able to upload your profile photo. Second privacy layer. Third privacy layer. Okay, yeah, how do I supposed to make sure that key user should not supposed to be mention their name and things and that. So for that particular process, I have a warning screen. Soon as the user kind of like hit the record, they kind of like see the red privacy screen. Okay, in that red privacy screen, they mention that do not mention your name, your any kind of like identity, nothing really at all. That screen is kind of like appear for 10-second countdown. Okay, yeah, and after the 10 second, then recording start, so that user will kind of like a very much sure that they shouldn't supposed to be mention their name and things and that. Okay, yeah. Third privacy layer. Fourth privacy layer, even if the user kind of like a mention their name, okay, yeah, my application is powered by AI, and that kind of like a AI will convert audio into the text subtitle. Okay, yeah, with a timestamp. So which has only one job to do, is that kind of like simply find the noun and kind of like add beep over there. Like basically my name is Saurabh Avthare, so Saurabh Avthare is a noun. So in that particular segment, like 2 minutes 33 seconds, I mention my name Saurabh Avthare. So trim that segment, or maybe mute that segment, or add beep over there, so that kind of like make sure that privacy should not supposed to be kind of like a reveal. Okay, yeah, this is the fourth privacy layer. Okay, yeah, fourth, 1 2 3 4 4 na 4, yeah, fourth privacy layer. Okay, yeah. Now let's talk about the fifth privacy layer. Okay, fifth privacy layer is that making sure that when the user will kind of like record the artifact, okay, they will not gonna publish the artifact, okay, until and unless they will kind of like listen the artifact. Okay, it is very essential that they should supposed to be listen first. Okay, when they listen their artifact, only and only then that artifact will kind of like hit the public. Okay, okay, so basically is this thing that it is kind of like a very much sure that the user wanted that they wanted to share their this story, okay, and they are really confirmed with whatever they are kind of like recording. Only and only then they will kind of like listen the entire artifact. Okay, after the system realize that that particular person listen the entire artifact, then and only then that artifact will kind of like went into the public. Okay, so these are kind of like simply that 6 privacy layer, 5 or 6 privacy layer. These are kind of like all default. Okay, means every user will kind of like have these privacy layers. Okay, now there is also another privacy layer, but these are layers, these are privacy layer like a 7 like a 7 or 8 privacy layer. These are for kind of like such a user who thinks that their identity might gonna compromise if I kind of like use my voice. Okay, like let's just say you are a kind of like a particular person that you might think that people might gonna recognize by my voice and things and that. So in that situation, okay, artifact is actually giving you voice masking. Okay, like basically is this thing, your voice is kind of like masked by AI or kind of like change the pitch or things and that, so that kind of like your voice is kind of like a sound very different. Okay, so that normal people will not gonna kind of like simply understand who you are and what you are. Okay, this is the kind of like something, but this feature, this privacy layer is not for everybody. Okay, is only for such a people who thinks that their privacy should supposed to be compromised, their kind of like their identity might gonna compromise. So for those people, these are for those layer. Okay, now another layer of things is that I was actually thinking about that, but I'm not really sure how do I supposed to implement this thing. So I think at the moment I don't want to talk about this. So these are all privacy layer that I'm kind of like making sure that every user will kind of like simply being really anonymous and things and that. Okay, but let me tell you one thing now. I am not really kind of like somebody saying that I don't want to be kind of like somebody that anonymous and things and that. Being privacy, yes, I wanted to give the privacy. I will have this kind of like a system that I will kind of like implement better and better, and kind of like making sure my kind of like my privacy protocol is established, and not any hacker will kind of like hack the any kind of like a things, or all the encryption model I will gonna utilize to make sure that user data make sure kind of like somebody that keep secure, safe, and yeah. But one thing I realized that okay, basically is this thing, it's not a kind of like a typical YouTube video that you kind of like somebody record once in a week. Okay, no, it's an artifact. Okay, and probably you might gonna record every single day. Sometime you kind of like record twice in a day. Okay, and basically is this thing that basically is this thing that how do you supposed to be kind of like stop your privacy or kind of like maintain the privacy all the time? No, definitely not. Okay, because of that basically is this thing that the real value of artifact is came when you kind of like somebody record the artifact. Okay, like okay, let me kind of like somebody tell you why am I kind of like not really kind of like why I'm not really against the kind of like being privacy, being kind of like anonymous and things and that, but it might create a lot of kind of like simply not good stuff. Okay, if the person is actually hidden, then that particular person might have kind of like simply very different agenda. Like basically is this thing, a particular person is kind of like giving a speech, but behind the curtain, then probably that particular person might gonna talk something or any kind of like a random thing. Okay, because no one kind of like simply seeing him, and he is a kind of like giving the speech behind the curtain. curtain. So yeah, okay, so basically is this saying that now if the user are kind of like utilize privacy for right reason, that is okay, but what if the some people are utilize privacy for wrong purposes, hate speeches or kind of like a things and that, in that situation what do I supposed to do? Okay, yeah. Uh, I do have another system for that. Every artifact is actually judged by the kind of like a simply judgmental. Okay, yeah, like things and that. I already mentioned regarding about this thing, but I will not gonna talk about that. But still, people will gonna utilize this privacy layer for wrong reason. Okay, yeah, and I don't want my kind of like a simply my platform kind of like a simply being spoiled and things and that. Okay, yeah. I wanted to implement the privacy, but I have to maintain the balance in between that. Okay, yeah. If the kind of like a people are kind of utilize that privacy for wrong purposes, I have to be take the action to those people and things and that. Okay. So yeah, okay. So these are all my kind of like simply privacy layer and kind of like being really anonymization. Okay, anonymization, like that's a really new word, anonymization. Okay, I will definitely kind of like simply invest money on advanced privacy layer or encryption model or things and that I will definitely. Okay, yeah, but these are I have to be kind of like a kept in check that people might not gonna utilize for this for wrong purposes. Okay, so these are all my privacy layer. All right, thank you.